as with Tomb Raider earlier this year, somehow Soul Reaver has returned. It's not like Palpatine, though. This is actually a very good thing for everyone. And I'm very excited that we get to sample this today. Now, as to whether I was able to cover it, given how busy things were at the end of the year here, it was like flipping a coin and having the coin land on its edge, if you will. Because rather than doing the normal style review, I wanted to bring in a friend to talk the changes and improvements through with me in real time. And that friend is, of course, Marc Try4ce Duddleson.
Hey, I've got my set of Soul Reaver games here. I've got the Dreamcast version, I've got the PS1 version, I've got Soul Reaver 2.
That's right.
I love these games. I'm ready to go.
And that's what this collection's about. It is Soul Reaver 1 and 2, remastered similarly to the Tomb Raider collection, it seems. And I have not had much chance to spend time with these yet, so that's what we're going to do right here. Kicking off with the original game. So as we pop in here, right away you can see that they've done, I would say, a pretty good job upscaling the main menu artwork here. Clearly AI was deployed, but I think the results are reasonably tasteful. It looks good.
Yeah, I'm mostly familiar with the PS1 version, so this 480p Dreamcast stuff here is a little bit new to me.
Well, this was actually a version I loved back in the day, but, well, let's see how it compares. So let's go ahead and hit new game in 1, 2, 3. So right away, one of the most interesting things I noticed is that they have done AI upscaling on the cutscene as well. And I gotta say, it looks pretty good. It looks better than I expected. It is actually, it's 60 FPS now. Though it has some weird dips occasionally. But the actual clarity and quality of the video is surprisingly high. I think it actually looks a lot better than what we saw earlier with Tomb Raider, because the Tomb Raider CGI sequences were, quite frankly, rather poor. Very simple looking stuff. I think these CG scenes are a lot better looking than what was done in Tomb Raider back then.
Yeah, on Tomb Raider, I think they had like a range mismatch issue because it kind of looked like you had some crushed video levels.
That said, those little side guys look a little funky when you see them kind of upscaled in high res, because there's just not.
I'm looking at your, high res feed from a little bit of a distance, but it looks from this far away surprisingly good. I
agree.
wonder if they had like a source that was higher quality than what's even in, say, the Dreamcast version here.
That's actually, so I'm assuming it's AI upscaled actually, but I mean, maybe there's actually more to it than that.
Well, I would be surprised if there wasn't at least an AI component to it, but I still wonder if they had a decent source, because I feel like most of the time the best source is available is what's in the actual games. Unfortunately.
Yes, that's right. I agree. Man, though, this introduction sequence was so outstanding at the time. You know what I mean? Like, this was just such a cool thing. And the music plays a big role.
I assume at the time you were probably familiar with the previous Legacy of Kain game. This was my introduction.
I was familiar with Blood Omen. A friend of mine at the time, Nathan, was extremely into this series, and he was also deeply into Blood Omen, the original, which is an intro. So that's why this series is a little bit weird, I suppose, for those that aren't familiar. I think I've covered this before in the DF Retro, but like essentially the first Legacy of Kain game was done by Silicon Knights. And it was a 2D overhead pseudo Zelda-like, I guess, where you played as Kain. And this was the original game in the series. Crystal Dynamics essentially took over after a certain point. I think they were involved with publishing that originally. Maybe? I can't remember. I think it might have been them.
I'm not really sure how all that connects.
But either way, obviously, this game, which was initially called Shifter, was eventually part of that series, and you instead played as Raziel, and it was a completely different style of game. I mean, fundamentally, there's still like dungeons and exploration, but like the core, the way it plays, and is much, much different. And if we say that Blood Omen was a technical disaster on PS1. This is a technical masterpiece in its original form. I say disaster because the original was so rough, Blood Omen, that they couldn't even play music and voice at the same time. They had to stop one and then start the other. So like that's what we're talking about here. Whereas with Soul Reaver, Crystal D was able to do this amazing streaming technology in multi-world design, essentially. And that's something we're gonna see right away. Once you're in the game, there's really no loading screens. Which was mind blowing for the time on Absolutely. A PlayStation. The idea that you could do this.
Not just no loading as you go throughout the world, but also as you shift between the realms. Yes. I mean, that blew my mind back in the day.
Yeah, that was incredible, to say the least. And on top of all that, it runs at a pretty steady 30 FPS on PlayStation. I mean, there are dips and spots for sure, but it's wildly smooth. It's way better than you'd expect.
But you seem to favor this Dreamcast version that I'm playing here.
It was mainly because I liked 60 FPS.
Yes. So you wouldn't consider this like another Shadow Man situation where
no.
N64 version was a lot better than the Dreamcast version.
No, Shadow Man was broken on Dreamcast. Soul Reaver was awesome. It was very well ported. It ran very smoothly. They upgraded the visuals a bit. There's some additional polygon detail on some of the models.
Yeah.
Which is something they've done further in this remaster, as we'll see here.
The animations I'm noticing, though, definitely feel like they have some roots in PS1. So I'm assuming PS1 was still considered the lead platform.
I believe it was, indeed. It came out... the Dreamcast version was a port, remember? So, and in fact, Soul Reaver 2 was planned for it as well. But go ahead and... so here we are at the beginning. So what's interesting is I can actually do this as well. If I click the right stick, it pops into old graphics mode.
Oh,
see?
Okay.
It just swaps it over in real time. And you really see how a lot of the environment detail is the same. But Raziel's enemy models are much, much higher polygon. Almost like I wonder if there's if they pulled something from like any CG renders or something to get there. I don't know. I'd be curious to know because it looks really good. Also, it adds real shadows. So you get blob shadows normally. And then it switches to full shadows when you switch in the high quality mode. Let's go and continue down this hallway here. And I'll talk about more details for those curious. So another thing about this new remastered version, I'm playing here on PS5. It is 4K native again, like Tomb Raider was. And it supports up to 120 frames per second, which is great. Super smooth. We're actually capturing at 4K 60, of course, given that we can't display 120 on YouTube. But that's kind of the benefit that you get. What's interesting, though, is you notice if I toggle over to the old graphics mode, it still runs at a higher frame rate, which was not the case with Tomb Raider, if you remember.
Right.
That would drop back to 30 FPS. So don't move. If we just stand right here, it's like an interesting comparison spot. And if I toggle... So when I toggle the classic graphics, actually, it's different than Dreamcast because it's not filtered. You see that?
Oh, yeah. Well, most people are probably nostalgic for the PS1.
I agree. I think it was right to leave texture filtering off in this mode because the textures kind of hold up better that way. Dreamcast, at the time, it made sense to just filter them. How does the camera work on Dreamcast? Remind me. I feel like it uses the D-pad.
Yeah, so you might hope that it used the R and L triggers, but it is indeed the D-pad, and it is indeed, as typical of the era, inverted horizontally.
Right.
Which I was used to at the time, but I have since... However, when I play a game with older graphics like this, it kind of just puts my brain into a mode where it just accepts horizontal inversion very easily, or relatively easily.
Exactly. Okay. Interesting to toggle again there. You can see the particles become a lot cleaner in the new graphics, but on Dreamcast there, this seems to be similar to PlayStation, where they're kind of chunky looking.
It seems like that blue portal has a much more saturated look on Dreamcast.
So if you walk up to that, you have much to learn, Raziel. Oh, it's not... Wait. Wait. Did that happen? If you walk up to that portal, do you get a cutscene? Is it like speaking to you? Are you locked in place? Okay,
I had to go another step. I I still need to feed. Look
Wow,
though
look at
how
that.
on
It's
your version
very
you've got
different.
this. You've got this very probably undesirable hexagon sort of border to yours, whereas on mine it's very diffuse. I think it looks considerably better in the original. Oh, I say
I
original in the Dreamcast version.
am in agreement with you. I totally agree, actually. I wonder, maybe this is more like PlayStation, but yeah, the Dreamcast portal, it's more of a soft, diffuse edges that kind of hides the polygon seams. That does look considerably better, I would say, comparing both modes. See, this has that central circular outward thing going on, but it doesn't blend the same way.
No, yeah.
So okay, that's probably a Dreamcast specific benefit. Now we need to feed
Let us feed.
from somewhere. Oh, there it comes.
The souls are coming out of this pit. We can get our swirly health back up to max.
Okay, now we can proceed.
The barrier.
So jump again. And here we have to do the. No, we can just make that normally.
Yep.
So there is a lot of automatic camera work in this, at least, which helps make the Dreamcast more still quite playable, I think.
Yes.
Here, though, I have to say, I really do, outside of the portal issue, I think the portals look pretty bad in this new version. I think the rest of the art is really nicely done. The new textures are excellent. Okay, don't move yet. Yeah, if we just compare those two there. Yeah, you can really, yeah, I mean, Dreamcast is clearly just sourcing that original artwork, of course, but filtered. But this new artwork, I feel, oh, look at this. Look, those swirls in the texture you see in the clip, in the vertical section there. They actually are exactly in the same spot, but sharper in the new one.
Yeah, the surfaces on the top where you can actually walk look like there's much more changes going on there versus the cliffside, though.
Exactly. So that's really interesting. Okay, let's go ahead and fly over there. So jump and then hold.
Yep.
And then the ugly gate should open. So here's another thing I wanted to note real quick that's also what's cool about the original and all versions, actually. Is like, so we're technically underwater here, but we're in the spirit realm kind of thing. But they're able to do this per vertices sort of warbling effect with lighting to give it the effect of like being kind of underwater, or I guess in the spirit realm here. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and that's retained between the two modes. Man, they did such a good job with the upscaling on the art here, I think. Just, it does look good, and it perfectly lines up with those originals.
Yeah, the tiling on Dreamcast different. Here is actually not super great between some of these. You see how you kind of see some of these hard vertices?
It's like that in the original, too. You can kind of see it here. It's just an unfortunate way of how this stuff works. So this shows us some of the new creatures that they modeled out for this updated version. I think they look pretty good. I think they probably did about as good as you can expect given what these things look like in their original form. Okay, if we stand there. So I'm trying to look at this here. Does this feel like it's cropped to you? It's like if we stand here, like the widescreen mode. No, I guess you can see more on the left to the right of the pillars, actually.
You definitely see more on the left and right, and if there is any vertical cropping, it's very minor.
Yeah, actually.
Relatively similar field of view here.
It's just the initial camera point, I think. Also, right, his model just looks longer and shorter in the original graphics. I like switching between these like this. That's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah, that's
all right, let's go to take care of these guys. So we're starting with Soul Reaver 1 because this is where we saw the biggest changes, right? But we will look at 2, and 2 is interesting because, well, as we'll see, the changes are a lot less noticeable because that is a PlayStation 2 game, but it was also planned for Dreamcast initially, but unfortunately that version did not come to pass. Oh, come on, stop running.
This guy's just running in circles over here for me.
I know, that's what they like to do. It's all part of the fun.
Yeah, I don't really remember much about the combat in this game. It seems pretty.
It's okay.
Basic.
Yeah, I would say it gets the job done. That's
I mean,
really,
this game is much more about the atmosphere and exploring the world and stuff like that. I would say, yeah.
Gosh, the storytelling! I just love that's honestly what makes Soul Reaver like this. The voice acting, the way the plot plays out. It is for young me when this hit. It was like a revelation.
Yeah. Like, wow. I feel like if I saw a modern game try to do this sort of very high fantasy narration, I think I'd be like, oh, I think I'd be just like, oh, get over yourself. But back when this came out, like, this felt like it was pushing video game storytelling to new places.
I would agree 100%. It was extremely engaging. And even today, when you watch the interactions between Raziel and Kane especially, it's just awesome. Okay, here we go.
And now we're back in the regular world.
So, and there it is. That is like the trick, right? That's the big thing right there that made this so impressive at the time. They were able to seamlessly transition between the spirit realm or whatever it's called and then this real world. And my goodness, it was cool.
Yeah, and you don't see stuff like that really done that way in games today so much as you might hope. Like when
can't go through here,
when the Norse God of War came out, I was like, oh man, it's so clunky going between the realms and stuff.
Oh, dude, yeah.
And I thought like, oh man, I can't wait for the sequel, which will surely be a PS5 exclusive, to let you do Soul Reaver style, like shifting between realms. It was not to be.
Nope.
It was not to be.
Back on this though, one thing I don't, so with the way the textures are filtered on Dreamcast, I think it looks bad on transparent edges like that gate. I think I prefer it with the hard pixels or the new version. It just has, like, it just looks a little weird to my eye. You know what I mean?
I agree. I mean, a lot of games did stuff like this, but it probably would have been better if the game didn't have its roots in PS1 as well.
How does the draw distance compare? If you spin the camera around slowly, it's pretty similar.
I can see a bit of a cliffside there. Yeah, pretty similar, which is good because, a lot of people think that like, oh, I want to see more, but then you get something like that GTA remaster.
You don't want that.
And you understand that fog is a feature.
I 100% agree. I think fog is awesome. It adds a lot to the atmosphere. It's underrated. Now it can be too severe. Okay, other way, this way. Follow me as if we're playing co-op.
So essentially the cave that we came from, I think, but in the regular realm.
Because now we can cross this water, but because it's now water, we cannot go swimming.
Is it water? I don't like the color of it.
I mean, have you ever seen this kind of like ancient cisterns? The water ain't blue, I'm telling you.
I would think not, I guess.
So, okay,
I wouldn't
stay there. Okay. So just comparing the two again. So yeah, toggling.
The water surface is more saturated on Dreamcast, but I would say the actual glow that comes up onto the wall, which is pretty impressive, I would say, looks similar on both.
It does. So yeah, it has more of a transparent look, stronger transparency on this version. I suspect PlayStation was similar. I'm guessing that a lot of the stuff we're seeing here is because it was derived from the PlayStation version. There was also a PC version, by the way, which was not Dreamcast quality. It didn't have the improvements of Dreamcast, and it was capped at 30. So let's go ahead and go.
Ooh, wow.
So yeah, Dreamcast came out last, if I recall, out of all the versions.
Yeah, I want to say that when I looked up the release dates, they were, maybe a month or less apart between PS1 and PC.
Something like that, yeah. Wow. So those guys are very abstract in their original form, as you can see. And also the corpse that they were feasting upon is rather abstract as well. Okay, well, so I'll let it hang here for a second to compare. So yeah, yours always starts with the camera like slightly angled differently. So here we go. So that's what
also look at the difference in brightness on that column of light.
Yeah, it's really bright over there on the Dreamcast version for some reason.
So much stuff seems of a similar luminance, just like in the environment, but a lot of effects that maybe involve transparency or something like that tend to be brighter on Dreamcast.
So it may just... So it could be an artistic decision, but it could also be that due to the way Dreamcast handles transparency, it just naturally displays differently. But my guess is that it's an artistic difference.
Yeah, I mean, obviously... it's been a while since I played the PS1 version, so I couldn't say whether
you can't even see through it.
Yours, yeah, you're right. Yeah, so I couldn't say off the top of my head whether the PS1 version ultimately looks more similar to what you're playing or not. We're grappling.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I threw that vampire into the water.
I'm doing that too. So this is the tutorial part, right? Where it's like, hey, to kill these vampires, you have to spear them, throw them in the sunlight, put them in the water, all that kind of good stuff. That's what we're up to right now, which is fun. I like this conceptually. It's like Mad World, but way earlier. Who remembers Mad World?
I have never played it. That's the black and white Platinum Games game, right?
It is indeed. I like that game. Oh, come on. Let me just...
So we've got a box here and sunlight that I imagine I ought not go into.
I just threw him into it, though. He is now burnt.
I threw my dude on the spear on the wall.
The Spear of Destiny. So yeah, look at the way this is really different.
Yeah, I don't know if my the way mine is done is intentional or not. By the way, I do not have vertical camera control, as far as I can tell.
Right. This one, so this remaster has full right stick camera. Like, it just works like this, which is awesome. Also, this box here is so they actually added polygons to this, by the way. Look at that. But if there's one downside to Soul Reaver, arguably, even though I like moving boxes as much as the next man, but you do a lot of that. You do so much box moving in this game. Like it's basically Boxel.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, this was probably of a time before boxes were really called out as being such a trope.
Yeah, it wasn't too tropey yet.
I mean, it was.
But yeah. So when you look back down in here, it is interesting. You can see how, back then to do lighting at all, you had to do per vertex lighting, right? You couldn't do per pixel wasn't really a thing until pixel shading. There were some clever workarounds that we saw occasionally. On PS2 especially, there were some really cool flashlights that tried to escape this. But by and large, during this era, before pixel shading was much of a thing, this is what lights tended to do. They would just reveal the underlying vertices. So if you had a low poly environment, you get those big triangles.
Oh, okay. There, I just saw you do a little idle animation clawing the ground. I was going to say I hadn't noticed any additional idle animations on yours, but
okay, they
seem to be
let's
intact.
roll. Wait, your eyes, like his eyes really glow in this version all the time.
Oh yeah. Well, my skin is much more of a saturated blue as well.
Almost purplish. Murasaki. Okay, let's open this door. Oh, you can see the seam. Can you see it on Dreamcast? Oh yeah, yes you can. Oh yeah. Okay. So the pillars of Nosgoth. Man, it's like nostalgic being back here. The stuff in Soul Reaver 2 that I loved the best was when it was just like Kane and Raziel chilling at the pillars, like mulling over philosophy. I could listen to that all day.
I've never played any entries in the series beyond Soul Reaver 2. I've really only played the 2 Soul Reaver games, and that's it.
The third one, Defiance, was less good because it was very action heavy from what I recall, but it was still enjoyable. Whereas Blood Omen 2 was a totally different developer, and honestly, I thought was... So Blood Omen 2 was such a crushing disappointment at the time that I actually returned the game.
Whoa.
I didn't do that often, but that was a case where I was so irritated with it. I was like, this is so not what I wanted. I returned it. I hated it at the time. I've probably was too harsh on it, but it was only because I was a big fan of the series, you know?
Right.
But boy, oh boy, oh boy. It was not cool. It also ran like garbage. You remember this, you know, on PS2, the PS2 entries were both 60 frames per second. But Blood Omen 2 was like an unlocked anywhere between 20 and 60, but it was like double buffer. So it was not smooth.
Wow.
I'm really digging this though. This feels suitably classic. There's some weirdness with the way the shadow intersects this ground, though, I will say. With the updated shadows. They didn't like go... It doesn't seem like they went full, like, say, shadow maps here or anything, which would have been an interesting thing to attempt. But anyway, you know, so this area, again, kind of highlights how you have the spear you can use to attack and take them out. But if you pick it up before you suck their soul out, they come back to life. And furthermore, you also have things like you can throw them on the fire. Like they were clearly thinking about, oh wait, how's this compare here? The fire.
Very similar, I would say.
Oh, look at this though. The way the smoke works. And I wonder if this is a transparency thing. Like the smoke on Dreamcast is like black plumes, right? That don't.
Oh yeah.
Whereas here it's like a whitish smoke. Obviously on PlayStation it would be very dithered and noisy, I'm sure. Because we know how that looks.
But I mean, there's some dithering. It's not too bad compared to a lot of Dreamcast games, but there is some dithering on Dreamcast.
Oh yeah, Dreamcast games were very dithered, really, but you could only mostly see it in the VGA box.
Oh, I got a little slowdown there.
Oh, when you
putting the camera, like passing the camera really close to the fire. Yep,
that'll do it. Yeah, I wonder if the black smoke is the result of a Power VR sorting, like, transparency thing. Some kind of weirdness there. I don't know. That's really tough to say. All right, let's continue.
Let's see. Where's this?
Oh, wait. You got to sneak.
Which cave did you go through?
No, not there. The other way.
There we go.
Oh, I messed it up. I pressed
now
square instead of triangle.
This game also recently came to Evercade, which I assume is just using PS1 emulation.
Yes, correct.
And what's interesting there is that, so I guess that collection on Evercade includes Blood Omen and Soul Reaver 1, but they call it the Legacy of Kain Collection 1, and as far as I know, there's no other game in the series that would fit the power profile of the Evercade. So I wonder what that means.
Are they going to somehow get this working on... If they get PS2 working on there, I would be pretty darn surprised.
Like, right? There's no other games in the series that, like, Evercade is never, unless they're like going to make like a new, more powerful Evercade that can run like PCSX 2-tier emulation.
I am also wondering this.
This is intriguing to me. Can I pick up this spear again? Oh, there I go. The spear on Dreamcast, I don't know about for you, but it often kind of looks like most of it falls through the floor, and it's kind of hard to see.
It does kind of weirdly clip. All right, here we go. This was awesome at the time.
Oh yeah.
Look at the way it blends the water. If we stand here in the middle of the bridge, see, like the Dreamcast is doing that thing again where it's like kind of blooming out the whites, which looks cool.
Yeah. Which, again, like, I don't know if that matches the PS1 aesthetic or not. I just can't remember.
That's the thing I don't really know. That's right. Occasionally with the camera here during cutscenes with the widescreen, you actually see stuff get clipped from view.
Oh, now there's some unseemly geometry on mine that looks much better on yours. Also, I noticed that in the cutscene, your sky has, I mean, it's not very detailed, but you do have some clouds there that
All right.
are, if they're there on Dreamcast, it's not obvious. It's very uniformly green gray sky.
I think there should be a button that allows you to look up. It's like a first person look kind of view or something. Maybe not. I could have sworn maybe that's just gone on Dreamcast.
Oops, I threw my spear. Trying to figure out. Yeah.
Look, if I switch to PS1, it gets rid of the sky. But there are clouds in the new version.
Whoops! Ooh, almost fell off there. Yeah, I really don't. I mean, I need to take a look at the manual, but I really don't think there's a way to look up and down on Dreamcast. So, with a controller like this, there's
only so much you can do, right?
Going to be limitations, yeah.
Yeah, it's so interesting to just see all this. Man, this area was so freaking cool at the time, man.
Oh yeah,
like wow, just mind-blowingly cool.
Was it not another grab the family moment like Unreal?
It wasn't that cool. But it was still pretty cool. Oh wait, we can't make it over there.
Whoopsie.
Uh-oh.
Wait, I'm okay. This water is not hurting me. This like chest high water. I'm okay. There's some slowdown here, by the way, on Dreamcast.
I'm feeling like you probably should not be able to. Like, I feel like you have discovered a glitch somehow. Oh no, maybe not. I don't know. Okay, so we're here. Were
we supposed to like glide over, or is that too far? I wasn't paying attention.
Let's go back to the center pillar here, and then we'll go over to this area. Oh, which is black. Look at that. That looks wrong. Look.
You're right. I can see
there's a
down
glitch.
that tunnel pretty.
Let me try to go over there. What's gonna happen? Oh, it is like deeply black fogged. Like see that? Look at that. I don't know why.
Yeah, so my draw distance is
but
longer
they just kicked it in for this specific tunnel.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's
But again, that is possible. That's also a difference between Dreamcast and PS1. I'm not sure.
Man, this is so interesting to see these differences. I'm glad we have the Dreamcast version here for our perusal.
Weapon to impale that.
I need a weapon. We can throw them in the fire, or just keep going.
Can I grab the torch? Oh, I can grab the torch.
Let's go in the door here. After you. Okay, that's pretty cool, actually. All right, let's go on in here. Yeah, perfectly, almost in sync. Now this room. Wait, it looks. There's a different tinge to the lighting on Dreamcast. I feel like more greenish looking.
Yeah, and we are using DC Digital HDMI mod here, upscaled through the RetroTink 4K to 4K.
Right. Oh, go in there.
So yeah, there's no analog video tinting going on here.
Correct. This is pure digital. That's one of my favorite mods for the Dreamcast.
Oh, we'll slow down here.
Oh yeah, I do actually vaguely remember that these larger areas had issues in Dreamcast occasionally.
But,
So I'm curious what they would have done. So Soul Reaver 2, they were working pretty hard to get that on Dreamcast, and I'm wondering if that would have been 60 like PS2. Like I feel like if this game was already struggling a bit to hold 60, that might have been a bridge too far, but maybe not. Like it's amazing what people are able to squeeze out of the little Dreamcasts these days.
I mean, what GTA 3 port? That's what some fans are doing, right?
Yeah, they are. It's pretty nuts. I'm excited to look at it.
Oops. I'm gonna grab this. Yeah, I mean, you're right. The combat is on the whole very serviceable, but I think these different elements of, keep in mind we're fighting vampires. We have to kill them in vampire-y kinds of ways. That definitely adds a little something.
All right.
Man, I always thought that big gaping no jaw mouth was so cool.
That is cool. All right,
back when we were teens.
Through the middle.
Oh,
you're going the right way. You're going the right way. Stop. Turn around.
Oh,
this way. Nope. Yep. There you go. Slowly turn the camera. Now let's go on in there. Wait, hold up. Back up.
Oh, now here I have much less draw distance than you.
Yeah, if we stand at the steps here. Interesting.
Wow. Those gray skies are where you can really see the dithering on Dreamcast.
I suspect that PS1 has a lot of fog here as well, and they've just extended. They must have touched it up here because I'm pretty sure.
It seems like they likely made some creative choices in terms of where. Yeah, well, but in terms of like where you have more draw distance or more fog on the new version.
Exactly. So to me, that's cool because it really seems like they were touching this up bit by bit, right?
Yeah.
The thing is though, as I've reading online, I have heard that there's some bugs and glitches that have popped up in this. I have not encountered them yet because I haven't played enough, frankly. And I'm curious to see if that actually becomes a problem or not. Oh no, I picked up
the auto targeting for throwing enemies onto like fires and stuff is pretty successful in general. Like you just kind of have to make a very vague general aim in the direction and it just kind of works.
Right. Yeah, this is super interesting stuff.
There's oh wait, never mind. I was gonna say there was like more particles going on in the portal room. I think that was just the enemy dissolving.
So this was the equivalent of fast travel. Really?
Oh yeah.
Do you have fog down the steps? Yeah, I guess it's. Oh, whoa!
Yeah,
do you see,
I mean, it's dark at least. I can't quite tell if it's.
I'm seeing a glitch. Look at this.
Oh yeah!
When you cross that barrier, you could maybe freeze frame it right there for us.
Yeah, I will.
I think we're just seeing through the level geometry there. So
interesting.
Because I think obviously everything's segmented, right? So the game's kind of loading in stuff before and after the player based on your position. So we unlocked this gate. We forgot to go in the other one.
The emblem looks a lot better on your version than mine.
Yeah, it does.
But the color is different.
Wait. Stand there. It's missing the glow on Dreamcast. You see that?
Oh, yeah.
The green glow.
I don't know if that was perhaps added...
yeah, we don't need to actually...
all new to your version, or if it's a PS1 thing.
We don't need to go in there.
I do remember, I mean, you're talking about how this is fast travel. I remember being a bit confused by this back in the day. Like, these portals and stuff. Like, now it seems like such a normal gamey concept of like, okay, unlock the fast travel spot. But back in the day, I'm like, well, why am I going here if I don't need to go here right now?
I see. Yeah, you're right. It was not. That's true. At the time, it was not a common thing, right?
Yeah.
But in when you think about it, it's pretty forward looking, right? They're like, hey, this is a way to get back to other areas quickly.
Right, but it was a little strange at the time. For me anyway. Very standard now though. Oh, I have a lot more visibility down this hallway. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. You have more visibility.
It just seems to vary per.
Yeah.
So this area is like a thick fog.
Or maybe it's about the same. I don't know.
I think it's similar. Where do I take it?
Definitely varies, which, like you say, like that indicates some degree of artistic intent that I would say is.
Oh, that didn't work at all. But I can get this. It's whoop. Beautiful. Oh, nope. I keep forgetting that. I have to suck his soul out first. I have to reave his soul. Become his Soul Reaver. Oh man, where's Mobius when you need him?
Man, what a great voice.
I just can't get enough. I'm excited to play through this again. By the way, they didn't even reach out to us or anything for review code for this game. I just bought it myself because I'm like, I gotta play this.
Yeah.
So we're making this video just because I wanted to talk about Soul Reaver, even if it's just this sort of brief side-by-side format. There's so much stuff going on, but I'm happy to see this side-by-side here. This is very interesting and cool. Oh yeah, this is going to be an area where having that camera control is awesome. Just these big areas, you can really kind of run around and more easily understand the layout now. Wow, it's so freeing to play this with right stick camera.
I would imagine so.
So I'm pretty sure PlayStation, it did, I think it may have, I can't remember if it had the DualShock right stick camera, but it wasn't, even if it did,
Probably not.
It wouldn't have been like the free cam, right? It would have just been like a rotation.
Yeah.
Because most games were not doing free right stick cam yet.
It took a long time for games to even figure out, like, what do we use this right stick for? That's probably why Dreamcast didn't have one. It's like, well, no one's using the right stick for much of anything on PS1. Like, what do you need this thing for? And then eventually it was like, oh, like, let's put that on camera. Although I do miss the days when developers didn't always just do the same thing with the right stick. Back when you had your Ape Escapes, it's like, hey, what do we do with this right stick? We don't know. Let's come up with something weird to do with it.
Exactly. I miss that. Oh, yes. I feel like, though, at this point, we have a pretty good understanding look here at Soul Reaver 1. Like, obviously, this is still very early in the game. There's much more to go. But at this point, I feel like, oh, man, this it seems pretty, like, what we'd expect.
Yeah.
The remastering effort is actually, it's overall good. I don't know. It feels similar to the Tomb Raider one, where it's mostly like textures being updated with a little bit of geometry here and there, and character models are all updated. I feel like it's largely pretty successful, though. I like the way this is looking. Can't speak too much about potential bugs, mind you. Well, there was the shadow there, one could argue was a bug.
I mean, I personally don't mind remasters, remakes, or whatever staying pretty close. Like, I don't think remakes need a massive overhaul unless it's like a major project where that is the intent.
Precisely.
Like a Blue Point or Metal Gear Solid Delta or something like that. I think it's okay to stay pretty close to the original personally.
I would agree with you. That's what they've done here. So I'm liking this, which is why I think in a moment here we should switch over to Soul Reaver 2, because that's something they haven't really done. Well, I guess if you look at Star Wars Bounty Hunter, which was also an Aspire release, that would count. So why don't we switch over magically to Soul Reaver 2? I want to know what you're thinking. Tell me what's on your mind. Do you know what that is? That's Kurt Harlan, baby, the lead singer for Information Society. I forgot to bring this up earlier, but did you know that the music in Soul Reaver 1 and 2 was created by Kurt and alongside Jim Hedges to create that iconic sound, which you somehow didn't really remember.
I know now.
Now you know. I'm surprised you didn't know, or like that you didn't really remember the Soul Reaver music, because I've always felt that the main themes for this game were very memorable, and there's a lot of great atmospheric tracks in here that just give it a unique sound that's very different from other games. And that's something that is retained, thankfully, in this remastered version, and that the audio is just phenomenally good. Now, so Soul Reaver 2 here, though, you played this one, right?
I have. The funny thing about it, I want to say it was the last game that I ever bought, like the last used game I ever bought at a GameStop.
No way.
Yeah.
When did you play this?
In the PS3 era. I played it in the PS3 era, and funny thing about that, there's actually a glitch I read about before I played the game, but I was just like, maybe I won't run into it. But yeah, at some point in the first several hours of the game, there's just like a box that's required for a puzzle that just does not spawn, at least on the later PS2 fat system.
So that's what you're saying, basically. The PS3 system with software-based PS2 backwards compatibility has an issue with this game.
Yes. Yes. I mean, it plays up, it plays fine up until there's just a box that won't spawn, which is you would expect more like graphical glitches or,
That's weird.
weird physics behavior or something. But no, it's just a box that's just not there.
So, unrelated to that, but I am seeing some weird scaling issues with this remastered footage here. It's done similarly to Soul Reaver 1, but it's only when the camera kind of moves around do you notice it. But by and large, I think it's, yeah, see, there it is. It's a little bit, it's like there's like lines cutting through it. So I'd be curious to see how they did this. It is, of course, updated to run at 60 FPS, but so this is the kind of stuff that embodies what I love about the series, is when it's just Kane and Raziel just chopping it up. It's the best. Like every time they're together on screen, you're just like, yep, this is the good stuff.
Eating the scenery.
Oh, it's so good. I love it.
But the actual clarity on PS2 here is much more comparable to the remaster clarity versus Dreamcast, which was clearly, well, maybe I shouldn't say clearly less clear.
Yeah, I mean, I guess for Dreamcast they just had to pull from the PS1 asset, which would have been a much lower quality video, I assume. I mean, obviously it would be, right? Whereas PS2 has the advantage of DVD. So on a CRT, this opening looks like shockingly perfect, I would say.
Oh yeah.
This whole game,
PS2 FMV is still perfect on a CRT.
It's awesome. Yeah, it's the best era for FMV in the history of console games. It never got better than that, I would say. In terms of perfectly matching the display and the technology together, like video was about as good as you could get. Oh, there's no loading screen. Yeah, there's an initial loading screen on the PS2 game. Here, I'm going to pause, let you catch up here.
Interestingly, you can pause during cutscenes on the PS2. You cannot skip them, but you can pause.
So this does showcase, obviously, there we go. Now it's in sync. This showcases the main difference, I think, which is that the character models were updated again and fairly consistent with Soul Reaver 1 now between them. Of course, you can still toggle between them, and it's basic character models and textures that have been updated. But the texture updates, it's not as dramatic, I would say, feeling in that, they're clearly sharper. They were designed for PS2, and they also, I think the textures look really good on a CRT.
I miss the deeper blue of Raziel from the original.
Actually, you're right. He's much more pale looking in the remaster here.
Something that I think is funny, I can't quite tell if the remaster changes this from looking at your footage from this distance, but Raziel's ears in the original aren't really modeled out. They're just like a texture on the side of his head, which is kind of funny for the era. I think.
You're right, actually.
Especially these like pointy elf ears. Like I could see them taking that shortcut in that era for like normal human ears, especially on an NPC. But I feel like for pointy ears, I'd expect a little bit more. But
Yep. The thing about this game,
otherwise, I mean, it's really good looking. I think
it's a very nice looking game. I actually played this day one when it came out back in 2001. It was very hotly anticipated for me, and I thought it looked amazing at the time. It was a huge leap over the first game. There's just so much more detail in the. Unfortunately, this initial area that we're going to be looking at here, which does look good, is not nearly as good looking as what comes later. Right? There's some beautiful areas in this game, but already there, just like the level of detail is pretty high, I'd say. And also, it's a big advantage. I think this was a rare PS2 game that actually uses MIP maps. So like the textures like have less aliasing at a distance compared to usual.
It does have kind of a softened look. Yeah, I was trying to figure that out when I was testing before we recorded, because I was like, it almost looks like there's a flicker filter, but I don't think there is. And I think that might have been what I was seeing, because I'm like looking at the textures and I'm like, it has this real softened look. Yeah, I think you're right.
So yeah, I think that was one of the techniques that they took to sort of smooth out image quality. And I think, again, on a CRT especially, it looks really, really clean on PS2. Far more than you would normally think.
Raziel's face is in much more shadow on yours.
Yep.
There, I feel.
I would say though that back then, I feel like Western developers were less skilled at creating great looking character models. You know, when you look at the Japanese games from this era on PS2, like the character model quality, I think was largely better.
Yeah. I don't quite like how this dude's eyelids work.
Did you just say this dude?
This dude's eyelids.
You referred to Mobius as this dude.
I mean, you know, I associate him with, you know, the voice at the beginning of the first game.
Oh,
my memory of this one is much lesser.
Man, this was so as I said when we were talking about Soul Reaver 1, this game was actually planned for Dreamcast. And I'm really wondering what kinds of decisions, if as best as I can tell, the game was primarily architected for PS2, and then there was like one dude or like a small team that was working very hard on making a Dreamcast port. So I think it was probably a PS2 game first and foremost that just happened to also have a planned Dreamcast version, which would have probably come out if Sega hadn't killed the console back then.
Man, look at the lens flares on the orb on mine.
Oh yeah, that is ridiculous.
There's so many lens flares on that.
Man, toggling here, the difference in the background is not significant. The character model, but yeah, dude, his lens. Wait, the lens flares look different. Look, when I toggle it over here on the classic graphics, it doesn't have that effect.
Interesting.
Let's see.
Just look at those. There's like lens flares everywhere on that thing.
They got rid of them on this version. It looks totally different with the quote unquote classic graphics. I wonder if this is like based on the PC version then. I'm gonna just say it. I prefer the lens flares.
It's so over the top. I can't not like it.
It's funny because all they're doing is they're sourcing a texture for the reflection, right? And for whatever reason, they put a bunch of lens flares in that texture, or maybe they're tiling them. I don't know. It looks very silly. Oh yeah, this is a great line, of course. What? Yeah, that was a good.
Something that is kind of nice. On the remaster, there's no option for subtitles in the original versions, which with a game that gets this long-winded and talky, like I feel like you kind of need them.
Especially for people that are like reasonably fluent in English, but not like native level maybe, or like they're like, you know, a modern social media kind of raised person.
Yeah,
Wait a minute. What's going on here?
Your swirly has a bad aspect ratio.
The whole aspect. What's going on?
Wait a second. Do you see the same field of view that I have?
That's what I'm trying to understand. No, what's going on here? Is the because his model's correct. It's not like stretched, but like the
columns don't. The columns don't look stretched either. Do you have a vertical crop? I think you have a vertical. Do you have a vertical?
Oh no, I can't see. I can't tell. It feels like
I do not have vertical. I still don't have vertical camera control. Is there like a?
Does right stick move the camera at least?
Okay. Holding R2 gives me a first person view.
I think that was on PS1 as well.
Yeah, it
for the
seemed
first
to not
game.
be in Dreamcast.
They didn't have enough buttons.
Something that I noticed as well, like I don't like, I don't know, these circle motifs and these murals are very oval. Like I don't know if the artists quite knew how they would be displayed in the game.
That's what I was. I always wondered that too. If they didn't quite know how it was gonna. Well, we got to fit this within this geometry, basically, right?
Yeah.
So they like squashed it down to fit in there. That's what it looks like. But look at that when I toggle the graphics. If you look at my side, like it's so interesting how much more subtle the difference is.
Yeah.
Like, if you're not looking at Raziel, it takes a second to figure out which one is the remastered graphics. Because, like...
So, I'm staying in a pretty close spot to you, and I think you do have a zoom in.
Oh no, it's zoomed and cropped. I think you're right. Oh, that's a
Uh,
bummer, because yeah, Soul Reaver 1 was not, but this does feel like zoomed and cropped.
However, you have vertical camera control and I don't,
Right.
so
It's probably not a huge
I
deal.
kind of need the vertical space, and you perhaps don't
Don't.
need it as much.
All right, so let's proceed. Which door do we take? I forget. Which one is open?
The one I went through had a purple over it, I think.
Now, this is what we want. This one.
Oh.
The big wooden door. Let's look at the textures here up close. Oh yeah, like those obviously suffer a lot.
Oh, sorry, I already went through.
Okay.
Got this nice stained glass here.
Wow, yeah, like the remastered, there's barely a difference.
I mean, those are nice looking stained glass on PS2, I would have to say.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised, but it is interesting to see how the alterations are far smaller.
I'll grab this pokey thing.
It's basically the moving objects, so characters, things like this thing here, this basin or whatever.
Yeah,
that obviously
nice extra modeling.
You get more polygons in there. Still, though, I felt like at the time the amount of geometry in this game world was pretty awesome. They get pretty dense. Oh, cutscene. So I gotta take him out.
Oh, I don't think I got a cutscene.
Come on.
Yeah. I always loved that sound when he consumes the soul, like something about it.
I know.
You know?
It's really good. Okay, so what do we got here? Yeah, you can kind of see the mip maps there on PS2. It's interesting. Oh yeah, the remaster doesn't really change those textures much.
The camera motion is a little jerky in this cutscene on PS2. Like I don't know, there's some sort of something doesn't seem quite right to my eye.
I think it's just the way they move the camera. Okay. Let's go ahead and... So yeah, this just starts with you like just slaughtering humans, doesn't it?
Yeah. You can chop off their heads and stuff, but you don't have to impale them or set them on fire or toss them in water.
It's been a while since I played through Soul Reaver 2, so I'm kind of excited to see this all again. I remember the intro being a little bit long, but once you get out into the world, it's pretty awesome.
I remember being quite surprised when I finished Soul Reaver 1 and saw what a cliffhanger it ended on. You know, I didn't realize that it was kind of, considered an incomplete game.
Yeah, it was. That was the whole thing. It was a difficult development. I think Danny O'Dwyer and them just put out a documentary on this recently. Which is cool. I started watching it. It's really good so far. I'm curious to see more. Yeah, we can shift to spectral and through this gate.
Ooh, we weren't able to do that with as far as we got in the what button brings up those options?
You gotta you gotta hit on this. It's maybe select. It's the touchpad on. Yeah.
There we go.
Shift.
Yeah. Oh man, that distortion.
That's so good. Look at that. This is crazy.
Oh yeah, and then your health swirly changes form in here too.
Right. Okay. So I think you're going the right way. Keep going straight.
Gosh, that distortion is so good.
Go no. To the left. 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 Through there. Through that door.
There we go.
Now we can phase through this. And then there's a portal to come back. Man, I love this distortion. It really makes it. So one of the things that they talked about from what I saw in the documentary is like dealing with that spectral warping. Where like there was a lot of worry over like, let's say you do that and like the geometry changes and now Raziel's model's stuck in the geometry, right? It was really tough to test for that and ensure like the game didn't break when you did it. Wow, this is a cool looking area.
It is.
This, yeah.
Generally, it feels like the lighting and everything carries over pretty faithfully in this one.
Yeah, it feels much more accurate. Are they doing that blur effect over there? I swear I could see it was like that. That standard that PS2 motion blur effect.
Oh yeah. There's some trails here.
Like to show.
Luckily, it doesn't seem to do that in gameplay.
Right, but they're trying to show the effect of him getting closer. That's interesting. The sword. Oh, so they did not duplicate that that blur effect in this new version.
Possibly well advised. That I mean, that's I think one of the worst aged things about PS2 graphics.
Oh, I like that kind of blur. I think it's fun. When it's done
in
tastefully.
some cases it can work, but like Sly Cooper, I think is a good example. Where,
I don't like
gameplay,
that.
It's just like, why is this here, guys? Why is this?
Yeah, I agree with that. I like it here though, where it's used to effect, right?
Sure.
It's designed to show that he's having an issue here with the Soul Reaver. The Reaver.
Yeah, I do wonder why it's not. I mean, you do still have the
warbling.
The warbling, yeah.
It looks a little like it looks without the blur. It just looks jittery. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's very strange.
Yeah, I wonder if there's like a technical reason that just didn't carry over correctly.
It really affects the particles there too. Huh. I wonder why they didn't do that. They look at his arm and everything and the way like the blur affects it versus.
Yeah, I mean on PS2 your perception is more on the blur than the like warping, right?
Exactly. But here it just looks like the background is like.
Yeah, and look how like the alignment of the ground with the coffin. It's weird. It is weird.
It doesn't look right without the blur. Also, it affects the glow of the sword. See, like everything about that's quite different looking.
Yeah, I wonder.
Why would they do that? I wonder.
How often does the game use that effect? I don't quite recall.
I don't think it's too often or anything. Don't forget it was Cain who led you here, not I. I love this.
You know this game so much better than I do.
Oh, this writing is great. I enjoy this. It's very pleasant. Old man. The voice acting really is top notch as well.
I mean, Amy Hennig was kind of the lead on both of these games, wasn't
exactly,
she?
Yeah.
I don't know if she did the writing or.
I think she did do the writing, a lot of it anyway.
He left his lens flare staff behind. Oh no!
Oh no! What's he gonna do without his lens flare staff? Yeah, look at that floor. It just looks like they're floating on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like without the blur, it's just like it doesn't look right.
And it makes me look a little ill looking at it without the blur.
Right? Like honest. It's clearly this whole scene was designed with that effect in mind.
Like at first I was like, no big loss, but the longer this has gone on, I'm like, okay.
It was clearly designed with that in mind. It looks weird without it. And it doesn't turn on for the classic graphics either.
So, I mean, considering some of these missing effects and the vertical crop and stuff like that, I mean, how are you feeling on the job done on Soul Reaver 1 versus 2?
So far, I'm going to say that the job done on 1 is a lot more impressive. Mainly because I feel like 1, they did do a good job, but 2, Soul Reaver 1 needed it more.
Yeah.
Whereas Soul Reaver 2, I think, still feels pretty fine as is. And it seems like the crop and the lack of the blur and things like that, it doesn't ruin anything, but also the upgrades, like when you look at the textures, they're better, but not night and day better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like you look at that right there, it's like, yeah, okay. You can definitely see there's a difference, but like you could almost question which one was better, right? You're like, wait,
absolutely.
Like which one is the remaster? So, and some textures are noticeably better. Like this surface here, that's way higher res in the new one. But a lot of the textures don't really benefit that much. So it's a strange conundrum. So let's go ahead and leave this area then. But I'm definitely feeling less convinced by this one. But it's nice to have it in the package. And of course, you get 120 frames per second. And you can play it on a modern screen with the proper dual stick controls.
I feel it would be a challenge to resell either of these games on their own, just considering they are, it's an incomplete story without both of them.
Yeah, they basically have to go together. One thing I noticed, though, that is nice is they seem to spawn a dynamic light around Raziel with his arm glowing.
Oh, yeah, it looks a lot brighter where you are. Ooh, I'm hurting. Are there souls for me to eat?
You see there's it's just like a blue circle that follows you around. See that? It's the light.
Oh, yeah. Look at that. I definitely
They did not
do not have that.
Okay. Wow, this environment, I remember being so blown away by it back in the day, though. Just this big cathedral.
Do you think if they made a new Legacy of Kain today, would it be a Souls-like?
Whew. That's actually a good question.
I feel it probably would be.
It kind of makes...
Not that that's necessarily a bad thing, but...
No, I love those games.
I love Souls-likes. But...
Exactly. I almost feel like it kind of has to be.
Like, what else would it be,
Right, exactly. Like, I feel like that's just... that's where they're heading. If they were to do
it. I want to say I either play a demo or maybe it was free somehow. I can't remember. I tried the beginning of, I think it was the new Lords of the Fallen game, and I want to say if that it was some Souls-like game. Yep. I think it was Lords of the Fallen that had a Soul Reaver-esque kind of alternate world.
It does. That is the Lords of the Fallen, the new one.
Yeah,
that's right. It does have that. That's a good point.
And you don't see that kind of design that often these days, where there's just these like two overlapping worlds that you can just like immediately switch between.
Yeah, I've been meaning to spend more time with that game because you're right. Conceptually, that is very interesting. It does indeed have that element to it, the overlapping worlds. How noble and pure I had been. What a vile phantasm I had become.
Yeah, it is really hard to see in here right now with my video lights on.
Oh, I bet. It's very dark. Okay, yeah, we're up top. Now there should be a door to open along here. You're going the right way.
Oh, I just want to look at this. I can't. I was like trying to figure out, like, is that like a blood splatter on there? Or
is that? Wait, what's going on? Is that what it...
I can't figure out what the design is.
Look, they completely changed it.
Oh, wow. Well, I mean, the original kind of is nonsense, but then again, on the new version, they just have... Why would they design it so that, like, the bar goes like, right through the middle of that guy's head?
That's exactly what I was thinking, right?
But the old texture is kind of nonsense, honestly.
It's super weird. I don't understand that either. You know what these halls remind me of is Castlevania Curse of Darkness.
I was about to say Lament of Innocence.
Same thing. Not really.
I have not played far into Curse of Darkness. I've like started that game 3 times and bounced off of it by the second level every time.
I actually eventually got super into it and I liked it. It took a while.
That's what other people have told me.
Look at this. There's a difference. Look at the background.
My sky has so much more color to it.
What the heck? It looks...
Yeah.
That's really different.
Colors are way nicer on PS2 here, I would say.
And I'm toggling. Look, it barely changes anything.
Yeah.
Wait, which one is... Okay, I think that's the remastered. Wow. So... Looks like the fog is way stronger.
Orange in your sky.
I think the fog is stronger in this new version.
Right, and that's so you're just not seeing the full depth of
I think it's blocking
skyboxes.
Exactly. Okay, let's look at this once you stop. Okay. See, from here it looks similar. But like in that cutscene.
Yeah.
So I wonder if the fog values are different for the cutscene and they didn't update it.
Yeah, I'd still say that there's, especially if you look to the left.
Oh yeah,
like it still looks a little more saturated over here, a little clearer the sky. I
think the position of it is different too. Like, either way, it's a bit strange. But all right, let's jump in and swim over. I think we're gonna switch over to the spectral realm. If we jump in there, because that's how it works. Oh no. Oh wait. Did I miss something, or is this... I forget how...
So we can swim now? I mean, I haven't been paying it. I mean, I don't have subtitles, so I haven't been paying attention to the story.
I forget what... Like, at some point, Raziel could swim as well. I don't remember... Man, it's been like so many years now since I played it. Okay, here we go.
Oh, interesting. So is it the remastered version where that wheel looks a lot darker?
Yeah, it's much darker. It looks better. It blends into the scene better.
Yeah. I mean, although if it's something you need to interact with, it could be a little harder to
I don't know if it... Oh yeah, it is something you have to interact with. Oh wait, do you get that cool blur effect underwater? You do. On the PS2 version, I could see it.
It's a little hard to see.
Go jump in the water again. Jump in the water. And let's look. I feel like there should be that blur effect on PS2 underwater. Yeah, I see it. The new water texture is a lot more detailed, but because of the nature of how it works, it almost looks like it's electricity. You see what I mean?
Oh yeah, you're right. Ew, that doesn't...
It looks so super weird.
Yeah.
I think I prefer the original lower res one, actually, in this case, just because if you can't animate water properly, I don't just like a high res texture. It doesn't look good. So one thing interesting I'm seeing, there's little like particles in the air. Do you see those behind you?
Behind me? Oh yeah.
Okay, so those are retained. That's good. So I'm glad we at least got to this outdoor section here, because I was curious to see how this would fare.
Yeah, I remember being impressed, because I don't think there was quite anything like this in the original game.
No, this game has much more variety, I think, in terms of like environments. And I assume some of that's down to the technical stuff, because they were very limited in terms of what they could do color-wise in the original game.
Yeah.
Which also gave it a cool atmosphere, but,
this guy has a gun.
That's the time period we're in, I guess.
I can't seem to pick it up.
I noticed they added
there was a little traversal stutter on PS2 there.
Oh no!
Going through that gate.
Somebody
very minor, but
someone shined the Alex signal.
Is your impression here that this is a cromulent version of the game? Should people consider playing the original PS1, Dreamcast?
I mean, based on what I'm seeing here,
versions, or
so far, I'm feeling like may as well just go with this new version. Wait, let's look at the water here. Back up. So use it.
It's not a great effect.
Why is it not? That's interesting. So even with the classic graphics mode here, it doesn't look the same though. So I'm wondering why that's different.
It's still very it's just a big bright white,
yeah, I'm
bloomed out texture.
How's the water look up
Blown
here?
out.
I kind of like this animated water. It's a fun trick.
Oh yeah. That is nice. I hadn't considered that. We all know though that Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance is the king of PS2 water.
Nothing comes close to that. That's the best, bar none.
I mean, that might be the best water ever made.
It still looks great.
It's incredible.
But I feel like we've seen a good amount of this, and we should probably wrap this bad boy up. So for everyone watching, hopefully this was entertaining and at least interesting, or at least answered some questions about it. I will continue to play these versions and probably report back at a later point if I encounter any sort of egregious issues or bugs, because that's not yet clear. We did encounter that one issue with Soul Reaver 1 with the room transition. But beyond that, I feel like it was generally okay. But we've only seen the beginning parts of both games. I would say the remastering effort, as we've been discussing, feels a lot more complete for Soul Reaver 1. But I think it's just down to the fact that it's a PS1 game. So the difference is going to be more vast. But I don't know. What do you think? Would you play these again?
Absolutely. I mean, you know me, I'm inclined to wait for a physical copy, but I do see myself grabbing them, and I would like to make the time to replay them. And I think I'm going to start keeping an eye out for the other PS2 Legacy of games.
Yeah, I would recommend that.
Yeah, they've always been off my radar for a long time. Like, I considered them at one point and then just kind of forgot about them.
Sure,
so,
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's an entertaining universe.
I'm a little surprised they didn't include that one in here, to be honest.
Maybe if these do well.
But we'll see. And I hope that they do actually consider moving... Oh, there we go. We're ending the video just where I wanted to. The Pillars of Nosgoth, uncorrupted.
Heck yeah.
In this undefiled state. Oh my goodness, yes. Just fantastic. Look at that. Behold the beauty of the pillars.
I am beholding.
Oh, and there's... This is... Yep, there it is. Cage is waiting. I know you are there, Rosiel. You pull a lever to open that door.
I did, though.
You have to hold it.
Oh.
But anyway, we should probably end this, but I'm just so compelled by Kane here. But I know this cutscene will go on for quite some time. Spare me your elaborate metaphors, Kane. Oh my gosh, it's delightful. Well, thanks for joining me for this one, Mark. Yeah. It was a pleasure to have you here to talk about things. We went on a bit long, but all told, I'm happy. Let us know what you guys think. If you give it a shot, if you get a chance to play this, let me know. I'd love to hear your experiences with it. And maybe someday I'll get around to covering the rest of the series in a standalone video. But that day is not today. But that's going to do it for this video. So we'll see you next time.